I don't mind. Keep it steady, never falter. You don't know that I remember.
What's going on, everybody? It's Dan Baird with another episode of the Psychonaut Files presented by the Rumination Project. Thank you guys for joining us again tonight. As always, my co-host, Rhino.
What's going on, everybody? How are you doing tonight? Hope everybody's having a good week and staying lifted.
Staying lifted. Yeah, we're still sharing out here. So get the shows going. Appreciate everybody sharing out. What's going on, Sandra? How you doing? We're going to talk about magic mushrooms pretty much the whole time tonight. We're going to go really in depth of what magic mushrooms do, actually the science, all the data. There's a lot of interesting videos out there that I kind of wanted to share. So we'll be going through all that tonight. So what's going on, Debbie? How you doing? I think we have a couple giveaways too. We might have a giveaway. I guess we'll see if we have a giveaway. There is a post in the group that we could have a giveaway tonight if you guys can hit the amount of likes. We have a giveaway for that crystal. I said if we had 25 likes, I think I was asking for too much, so we're going to do 25 between both pages. I think we're just a few short. So we'll probably give it out tonight. I'm going to do the share out to the Rumination Project group. But you're alive there right now. Yep.
Yeah, that's what I'm going.
You guys can share out from the group now. It is a public page group, so you guys are welcome to share out from the group to your favorite group through your page, and help us educate people more about magic mushrooms as more people need to become educated as legalization continues to happen. So,
hey, Rhino, Dan Baird's here.
Am I?
Yeah, I seen your comment.
Oh.
That's a pen comment that comes with it, I think. Hi, Sandra.
But we have a giveaway too from all the people who commented the other day on a post, and we had like 9 people that commented on that. A little spin the wheel thing here.
Let's see if I can do something here.
But we got a few more people in here. Hope everybody's having a wonderful night. It is actually Thursday. I've had the whole week off, so it's been kind of a different week for me. I forget what day it is. And this is our first Psychonaut Files we've had in a long time, so I appreciate everybody coming back. I know a lot of people watch these on reruns. And we try to pack a whole bunch of information in here as much as we can about these substances so people can use them in a different way. These aren't party drugs. These are healing drugs, or healing medicine, I should say, not drugs.
Yeah, that's one of the things I find interesting too, is, about something that I used to use in a recreational way when I was younger that I didn't, I knew there was some magical stuff to it, and not the magical mushroom part. I thought there were some good things to it. I just didn't really understand it all back then. But now learning from, education and Dan and the stuff that I've learned here, it's amazing how much positive and stuff and healing properties that the magic mushrooms can do that I had no clue of back then. And if I would have known, that would have been so much more awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not sure I'd listen to it though back then, because back then I already knew it all.
Well, if anybody doesn't know, I'm Dan Baird, and I'm part of the Rumination Project. It's part of a podcast I started actually 3 years ago when I actually started using psychedelics on a regular basis. What's going on, Donna? How you doing, Polly? And and I don't use them as quite often as I used to, but for about 6 months I was using them every weekend, and I was actually using them in a very serious method that I kind of got help doing, and then kind of incorporated my own kind of healing in. I don't need to do it as much anymore because I kind of connect to that world without having to use psychedelics as much, even though the psychedelics are nice to have that reset of energy. But so I started the podcast more to talk about these substances like we are tonight. So thank you guys for joining us as we continue to talk about psychedelics, mostly magic mushrooms. And I got lucky with everything, how I actually found a lot of my healing. I kind of stumbled upon a medium friend who has a lot of research with trauma, and she really helped me incorporate how these experiences incorporate into your life. So there are a lot of these experiences people have on mushrooms are really incorporated to their childhood, and it's really hard to understand how these strange experiences, translate to your childhood. So it is good to have somebody who understands that a lot, and most of the time it can be a medium. And my medium friend is kind of certified in child trauma, so she's a lot deeper than a normal medium that's in incorporating stuff or interpreting stuff. So I got lucky in my experiences, and I think that's why I found a lot of good healing. It was just a lot of good timing, and I got lucky, I guess.
Yeah, that definitely helped.
Yeah.
You have somebody knowledgeable on your journey to help with guidance.
Yeah, I never thought that it would happen that way. I didn't plan for it. It just was a conversation I had with somebody, and then it started a friendship that I've never had with anybody else on this earth. Like, I'm very close with her. We have a bond now that we've had this healing journey together, as I call it. Her translating, what happens in these trips and my trips into how incorporated into my life. Sure.
Oh.
Stored trauma, and that's what mushrooms really help you do. They really help you, let go of stored trauma, and that's hard for people to do sometimes. So it can make you feel uncomfortable. Yeah, I think. Before we got this started, I'm gonna load a cannabis bowl, and we'll actually give this away because I don't think anybody else is gonna comment on that status. On that post. So this is for a giveaway the other night that I said I'd give to anybody who commented on a post and tagged a friend. And so a lot of you probably aren't even in here yet, but I'll notify you if whoever wins this. Unless it's Rasta. Rasta here might win.
Hey, stranger things have happened.
So I appreciate the love the other night, and I told you to give it away tonight. And so let me give this away to start the show. And load a little cannabis bowl. We got some blueberry muffin over here.
I got me a nice joint roll and going pretty well. Nice Rasta log.
Nice view of the Christmas tree over here, as you can see my view here. And I made the spin longer this time. So last time I did the spin giveaway, I made it like 5 seconds long, and it was horrible. There was no suspense there. Yeah, it was like, oh man, spin, and it was over. So I figured out how to do it. I think I slowed it down. I think there's the customize button. It's gonna be. Let's go to 30 seconds. That's pretty good.
Thanks everybody for coming in. Hi Polly. Hi Donna. Hi Debbie.
Please, you're welcome to share it out. We got a lot to share tonight still, and probably 2 or 3 hours full of some really useful information about magic mushrooms. But I guess we'll give this away now. Take a cheers here and watch it spin for 30 seconds. Well, in that case, I'm going to go to 40 seconds. That's enough for a nice cannabis hit. So good luck to all night. There were 10 people in here, and I think you can see them on the screen. Here we go. Oh man, that spin fast.
Oh yeah.
Becca, is your name on there? Oh, no. People tagged you in that, Becca, but you never did comment.
No, too much
Oh,
momentum.
is it gonna be?
Oh, it might stop. Holy crap. What the hell?
Is it? It's 40
you-
seconds. It's so creepy. Nah, there it is.
Hey! All right, come on.
Hey, you ordered a bottle anyway. It was meant to be. It was meant to be.
Yeah, no shit.
Congratulations, Rasta there.
That's awesome. Thank you, brother.
That was the giveaway from the other night. So from the other status like 2-3 nights ago.
Oh yeah, fuck. Every
It was
drop
pretty simple.
contributes to a puddle. You know, sometimes when you ain't got it, every little bit helps.
Right. Congrats,
Thanks,
man.
guys. I appreciate it.
Let me turn that down there. And then load the YouTube, because that's where we got a lot of useful information to actually share about psychedelics tonight. A lot of videos that I've just seen over the years that are just pretty useful, packed with information. I think that everybody should watch this one video that we'll actually show first. And it's a video that I actually found a couple of years ago on a TED Talk video by one of the leading researchers. Let me turn that music on. By one of the leading researchers at Johns Hopkins. So that's where a lot of the psychedelic research is really going on. And there's a lot of useful information that she has. She made this video because she knew that there was, a popularity in mushrooms about to happen. And she really shares a really interesting perspective. What's going on, Vicky?
Hi, Vicky.
Yeah. It is kind of a long video, but like I said, this is the video that kind of shows how many different areas magic mushrooms really treat. And it's really fascinating for anybody who really wants to know.
You're never late until it's over.
Right?
Dr. Leo Buscaglia.
And I think that's on full screen, yeah. So we'll just start playing this now. Anybody load your cannabis bowl, sit back and kind of watch it. I know there's probably people who out here have seen this, because I've actually shared this video with anybody who wants to know the first initial step about mushrooms. I think this is the best video to really watch. So we'll watch this first, but thanks for joining us, Vicky. Thanks for anybody else who's going to watch this later on as well. I know a lot of people do watch these informational videos later on. So let's get that started.
All of us know people whose lives have been touched by tragedy, depression, and despair. I believe it's because we're disconnected, and that there's a way back to connection, and that's what I'm here to talk about. Over 30 years ago, I listened to a program by Dr. Leo Buscaglia. It was simply called Love. Dr. Buscaglia was a professor at the University of Southern California, and a student in one of his classes committed suicide. It was devastating to him that someone could feel so alone and so disconnected, and that he hadn't known she was suffering, nor had others. He felt compelled to do something about it, and he began exploring the ideas of disconnectedness and the meaning of life. And after a lot of soul searching, started a non-credit course at USC called Love 1A, teaching the importance of human connection. Since college, I'd been searching to confirm my belief that love was the most important thing in life, that it was life. I'm one of those people always asking, who am I? Why am I here? What's the meaning of life? One semester, rather than going to one of my classes, I'd gone to an encounter group. It turned out to be an extraordinary experience of love and connection that lasted long after. And here was Dr. Buscaglia teaching love. I remember so clearly saying to myself, that's what I want to do. What could be more exciting, more interesting, but truly more important? So who would have imagined more than 30 years later, I'd be standing here talking to you about love? And that mushrooms got me here. Since 2000, I have worked in the Department of Psychiatry at Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine in our research with psilocybin, or as many refer to it, magic mushrooms. We have conducted multiple studies with psilocybin, including cancer end of life with anxiety and depression, smoking cessation, and major depressive disorder, among others. We recently received a $17 million grant to open a center for psychedelic and consciousness research and build on our work. We will be conducting a wide range of studies, from anorexia nervosa and early stage Alzheimer's to PTSD and opioid addiction. The grant is impressive, and it reflects the success of our research. Here are some findings from our cancer study at the 6-month follow-up. Approximately 80% showed clinically significant decreases in anxiety and depression.
These are the staggering numbers that when I first saw always blew my mind. And I saw this video before I really even did mushrooms. And to see, like, people say it was, 70% of people said it was the top 5 spiritually significant experiences of their life. 80% clinically significant decreases in depression, anxiety. Like these are profound numbers that are way a lot better than any pharmaceutical medicine. And when I first saw these, it made me really intrigued to try them more. So
depression. And almost 70% called it one of the top 5 spiritually significant experiences of their lives. There is a lasting impact for many of our study volunteers. Our smoking cessation pilot study outcomes, although just 15 people, is unprecedented, more than double the average abstinent rates. 80% were abstinent at the 6-month follow-up, 67% at the 12-month follow-up, and 60% at the 2.5-year follow-up. And preliminary results of our depression study at the 1-month follow-up, almost 70% of our 24 volunteers showed clinically significant improvement, and 50% full remission to normal.
that's crazy.
Depression is a vexing problem.
50% cured.
For half of our volunteers to be in full remission is remarkable. If these results hold over time, it could be a major breakthrough in treatment for depression. And through my time at Hopkins, I have had the extraordinarily privileged position of witnessing hundreds of these volunteer sessions. And what I have seen emerge is the core of the experience is love and connection, a reconnecting to our true, authentic self. For many, these experiences gave voice to something unexpected, a realization that confirmed these beliefs. One volunteer said, I was full of love and joy and connection. It was an awesome outpouring of love. It really struck me vividly that love is home. It is natural and present when obstacles are removed. Study volunteers come to us with a wide range of issues, and you've seen some of the measurable results of the psilocybin experience. I imagine some of you may think these results are unbelievable. It may even lead you to want to go out and try it on your own. But our studies are very different from recreational use with friends and at parties. That's one of the very reasons I'm giving this talk, because I believe that results like ours depend on good study design. Our studies are structured in 3 parts. The preparation meetings are where we begin to establish the relationship, the connection with our volunteers,
What's going on back
which is
up?
essential to provide a safe environment
Hi,
that
Becca. Hi, Dolores.
to trust us, their guides, to give them the courage to be vulnerable and share very intimate parts of their lives without the fear of being rejected. I think we have all had the experience of speaking an undisclosed truth, of divulging something that was buried inside and feeling lighter after, like taking off a mask and revealing ourselves. Intimate conversation is one of the most important practices to assist in this self-disclosure. It's amazing how many times volunteers tell us that they've shared things they've never told anyone before. Sexual assault, wanting to leave their partner, lying, cheating. Some say it's the first time they've been fully seen. And almost all our volunteers tell us how valuable these meetings are. And one said, had it not been for the two experienced researchers in the room, I probably would have had a full-blown panic attack and lost the larger experience. Psilocybin is strong medicine. It can be overwhelming. Being prepared for the experience is critical.
What's going on, Terry?
The
How you doing?
preparation enables our volunteers to relax and let go into the second phase, the psilocybin session. When we are tense or blocked, we don't allow the flow. Being relaxed allows this expansion and access to states of consciousness that often bring about a mystical experience.
I like she says this is actually very easy to do if you learn how to meditate. You can easily access these other states of consciousness that really mushrooms help you bring you to. And that's why I use mushrooms a lot less lately than I used to, because I can enter that state of mind now without the need of mushrooms. And I think there's a lot of science still that has to figure that out. Like, there's a lot of data that shows that we can, that once you do mushrooms, you have an easier time, going back into that same, brain thought, that state of mind that mushrooms kind of do for you. Now I can do it without the mushrooms a lot easier now that I've done it for years.
And that's awesome. I look forward to that point. I'm still at the beginning. I do, getting to the crux of things. I'm still in that stage. Is talking to, I know you know this, Dan, but talking to them. I'm still in the beginning stage where I'm still, needing to do the hero doses followed by some micro doses for a while. And so I get to, down the crux of stuff and get that rewiring a lot better to where I can get a place like Dan, to where I can do, because I can, do a lot in meditation, but not like the mushrooms. And whenever I'm able to get those two linked and coincided together to where I don't have to do the mushrooms, maybe a microdose or something, it'll be great to where I can just, go into a deep meditation and come out on the other side better than I was before I went in.
Right. And that's why it's really not addictive at all. And I know there's people who are worried, and a lot of state legislators, a lot of people who are against legalizing this drug, who think that, and it's not addicting at all. In fact, it's actually quite the opposite. There are many times where I've talked myself out of actually taking the substance, because because the effects of what it does. You have to kind of face your demons when you actually take a large of it. So it's not like another drug. This one kind of releases you, and as she keeps talking about in this video, it's just amazing stuff. And the data, the data that St. John's Hopkins really showing is truly amazing too. So
yeah, but most of our volunteers have endorsed.
Hi, Jeremy.
Mystical experiences are characterized by a transcendence of time and space.
And here's the big thing. So this is how I know the mushrooms have hit me. So anytime you ever take mushrooms, it doesn't really matter what amount. This is the feelings you should take into account when you actually do large amounts. So the transcendent of time and space is usually the first sign you really do not know. You kind of don't understand time, and you kind of lose the essence of what time is. You kind of look at a clock and think, what does that mean? That the transcendent of time and space really is that. And these other descriptions, ineffable, hard to describe. That's why people really have a hard time describing their mushroom experience, because it is hard to describe. It's your own your own journey, and the sense of sacredness and the unity and the noetic quality. So these are all really deep things inside that you feel, that you really know that the mushrooms have really hit you.
The best way I've found to describe it most of the times is usually profound.
Yeah. And they're almost in this order too. So I feel like they're almost in this order. It's the transcendence of time and space kind of happens first, followed by when you are completely enveloped by the experience, you kind of feel the unity and oneness to all. So it is a beautiful experience. And I love how I've watched this video 100 times. And I love her description of it and how she goes about telling it.
Deeply felt positive mood, a sense of sacredness and love and connection to all of life. But it's important to point out that not all our volunteers benefit from our studies, that you don't have to have a mystical experience to have a meaningful or transformative experience, and that these sessions are not always easy. In fact, they can be quite difficult. In preparation, we address possible difficulties, how to stay with them and navigate them during the session, and to see them as an important and meaningful part of the process. I have been witness to many volunteer sessions that were both difficult and had no mystical component at all, and yet were deeply meaningful and transformative. And this brings us back to love and connection. Study after study, volunteer after volunteer, session report after session report, I see the same theme.
I will say this lady has probably also, she's seen more people on mushroom trips than anybody else in the world. If this video was made, she was probably at like 600. She's probably doubled that. So she's probably seen literally 1,200 different people experience these mushrooms. And I don't know anybody else who's seen that many experiences firsthand. So I'll have to explain that, because her knowledge is just that is very useful. Just being able to witness what she witnesses to these people go through, when they're on these mushrooms.
Yeah,
Themes
it's got to
emerge.
be an amazing experience.
We
Right.
are love. The present moment is all there is. There's an interconnectedness to all of life and a deep-rooted knowingness of our true, authentic.
And these are really the qualities that mushrooms really do. That these are these four things. If you constantly do mushrooms, these are what they're going to do to you. And it's kind of hard to explain, but when you see all these things, they kind of make sense. But other than that, it's really hard to explain the experience. But at the end of the day, these are really what they all do to you, and they kind of make you feel. And I think it's important to know before you take them, what they're going to make you feel. And these are all really amazing things to feel as a human being, And it's still amazing that there's literally a drug out there, and a plant, a mushroom, a medicine that grows that does these things to our brains. And I'm really excited that legalization's happening, and that we'll have be able to have these experiences. Everybody will be able to feel these things.
Yeah, and just the research that'll open up. I can't wait. I don't know
Right.
that.
And the true authentic self, I feel that is really the truth. I would have never started a mushroom business if I would have never done mushrooms. I would never had the name Dan the Mushroom Man if I would have never done mushrooms. They literally changed my life.
And guys, when he says mushroom business, he means gourmet mushrooms. He's not a magic mushroom dealer.
When I first started doing magic mushrooms, that's where I was like, man, what are these other? That's when I started getting into gourmet mushrooms, because I was hooked, and then I was intrigued by all these other mushrooms. And because growing magic mushrooms and gourmet mushrooms are very different, for anybody who doesn't know, they're very different techniques of growing. But I feel like whenever you do these, that your authentic self truly does come forward, because your ego dissolves, your ego kind of goes away. And when that happens, who you really were as we're supposed to be without this ego, blocking who you are, really comes forward. So that's why you know, the authentic self is really important, and that's why it really comes forward in these deep-rooted experiences that she's talking about here.
Self. The psilocybin experience offers a means to reconnect to the present, our true nature, our authentic self, to love. One volunteer said this of his experience: "It is a total connection with the universe. It is a state of awareness beyond description, profound, yet one has the deep knowingness that this is our true reality." There's also incredible joy. Hearing the laughter of someone feeling love and connection on a deep level is unlike anything else. Joy itself can be a breakthrough. One of our cancer study volunteers, who had been joyless for years, wrote that this experience was meaningful to her long after the session was over, describing how she began laughing out loud and how that joy-filled experience put her back in touch with a feeling she thought impossible to ever have again.
That's
And finally, we incorporate these experiences into day-to-day life.
Well, somebody experienced
Integration
joy
is a key component of each study. Otherwise, it would just be an experience. Integration is weaving the mystical into the practical, bringing the meaning of the psilocybin sessions into daily life. I have observed significant increases in quality of life and personal meaning.
And these are the shifting things that happen really after the days after. This is how it really integrates into your life. And these are they take work. You can't just take the mushroom and then have this stuff happen. But these are really the core things of what they do over time. Just after taking them once, all these studies were done. They were given small doses, and then they were given large doses once they could a week later. So I believe that's how a lot of these studies worked, and that's how they got a lot of this data. But these are all really good things. I mean, if everybody had experienced these things in the world, we would be a lot better place, you know, as Earth, if we had all experienced these things. Especially the decreases in petty concerns. So that's why the mushrooms really do that very well, because they just remind you that, you know, we're literally a ball floating through the solar system, you know, spinning around the sun. And some things, you know, aren't worth, you know, worrying about. And that's why we were talking about forgiveness earlier, that magic mushrooms, you know, can allow you to forgive people. And as it says in this study as well, decreases in petty concerns and holding on to grudges is, you know, definitely forgiveness. And it's pretty cool that there's actually data that, you know, proves that.
Priority shifting, awareness of what's important and letting go of what's not. Increases in patience and increases in a core sense of self. These are some of the observations that reveal the lasting impact that we see in our follow-ups at 1, 6, 12, and some at 14 months. But it's not just the psilocybin that does this. It's the relationship we establish, the awareness the volunteer experiences during the session, and the integration after. This work and nearly 400 study volunteers is what has kept me at Hopkins for 20 years.
It's like
my
more like
relationship,
$1
my
million grant
connection
now. They're
with
studying
them.
the brain with this.
That is how I see my role as a psychedelic guide. That is what makes my work so fulfilling, because to me, relationships are what make our lives meaningful. Our studies explore the same questions that had me listening intently to that love program years ago. Only now, rather than my personal exploration, it is that of our study volunteers.
I think that pretty much the part of it I really wanted to show, and it's really informative about how these studies are working, and turn that on there a little bit. That was from 2018. Now there's a lot more data that's come out since then, but I think that really hits the basic bottom lines of what magic mushrooms truly treat. And now they're going to have to prove in larger studies that they treat all these things. But I think that's a really good foundation video for anybody to start at watching, wants to know, what magic mushrooms actually treat. It's very useful. But again, that was Mary Kazamala from St. John's Hopkins, who's actually studying. They have around $50 million that they have invested into psychedelics, into using psychedelics to study the brain. They're using psychedelics to study different states of consciousness. I can't remember exactly what the center is called, but they basically believe that psychedelics are the key to unlocking the brain, and there are a lot of other universities who kind of agree. They're spending a lot of money researching.
I believe that. It's helping me a lot. Each time I've taken a hero dose, I've gone farther into it. I was talking to Dan. There was a couple things, and I got farther than I did last time. And It's funny. I'm like a little kid because I'm like, oh, I got farther. I seen something this time, and I just know I got to see what it is, and it's like I can't. So now I can't wait to get more and get my next hero dose and go a little farther in my journey. So it's pretty cool. Yeah. It's fun and exciting.
And that's why we call it the Psychonaut Files, because the more you do, the more you become a psychonaut, and the more you kind of learn to navigate that world. Because it is intense, especially when you do large doses. It's letting go and just going with the flow. It can be hard, even if it's your first experience or your 20th. And every experience is different. That's what the most amazing thing about entering your subconscious is. As you age, it's never the same.
And
these mushrooms.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
The mushrooms give you the key to the subconscious, and from week to week, your subconscious is evolving, changing, growing.
Absolutely. I was a little scared and hesitant at first to what, not hesitant, I was just, hem-hawing around a little bit because, I took a lot of hallucinogens when I was younger. And like I said, it was always a big, dose, and it was for partying. So I, going into it, I was like, all right, well, now I'm going in and doing a purpose intention. So that first time was a little weird, but it was, I was able to do it. It was just, I don't know. I was just a little apprehensive about it because I didn't know what to expect, because usually I was just out with people and having a party. This was by myself, looking into myself. And it was really cool because I got in depth, so it's really neat to have the new experience with it rather than just using it as a recreational party drug. A lot more intention and a lot more focus, and a lot more results.
Sure. Hold on, I was doing something here. But yeah, that was a really great video, and there's a lot more videos we kind of get into as we educate you more on what these substances do. I think watching these, because I watched a lot. I literally watched hours of video before I ever actually did a mushroom, because when I first heard they were going to legalize them, I kind of laughed. I didn't think it was a good idea. But I was pretty ignorant, and I started doing more research and became, my mind kind of got blown open by what I found.
Josh, I put the permission link in the chat if you want to go over there.
Is that who's
Yeah, Josh Schaefer.
And then now we're going to share some interesting things. So this is something that a lot of people suffer from. And we'll talk about, and something that Rasta kind of talks about too, and some people who have alcoholism. And this was the first kind of big study that came out. I don't remember who the study was, but they'll explain it in the story But it's very intriguing. So we'll go over this one first about how psilocybin helps people with alcohol use disorders.
This really intrigues me. Yes, I mean, not that I want to go back and drink full time drinking again, but if it can help people, get away from that addiction. Oh God!
Yeah, and remember when we were talking about earlier when they started AA, they wanted to kind of build it on somebody taking magic mushrooms to heal, and then they made it illegal, and that didn't happen. Or was it NA or AA?
I'm not sure about NA because at first it was in 1939 AA started. Two guys to start, two old drunks. There's no. And then it went on. They wrote the book, and then they separated AA from NA because it was kind of a different thought process, which it kind of is. The addiction's still the same, but the substance is a little bit different, and like-mindedness helps like-mindedness. So, but somewhere down in the 50s or 60s, Bill Wilson, one of the founders of AA, he experimented with psilocybin and LSD trying to find a cure for alcoholism. And there's a study on YouTube, if you guys ever get a chance, look at it. But they, I don't know how far they got into it. It didn't pan out somehow.
Gotcha.
A lot to do was with legalities was a lot. They couldn't do much research on it, and then all that good crap.
And I didn't mean to not answer your question, Vicky, but if you're under a lot of stress, I mean, it's probably not a good idea to have your first mushroom experiences if you're under stress. I have taken mushrooms under stress, and it's not a very good experience. There's a lot of things that happen that you have to get through. And if you're more experienced, you can get through them, a lot easier if you are under stress. But they do influence your dreams. I do not have violent dreams. My dreams seem to make more sense now now that I take mushrooms, but I don't have violent dreams. But I'm not sure what it would do to somebody who has violent dreams now. So, but if you use the mushrooms to heal, usually your subconscious heals and everything behind that follows. So I imagine your dreams will become, less violent.
And that right there is a big part of it too, Vicky.
Right.
That carries on into our dreams, and it will, unless we deal with it or whatever, or it passes.
Yeah, that's good. That's good to do.
Yeah, there you go. I should have read on.
Gotcha. But we're going to play this video about how psychedelics really treat alcoholism. It's really, really intriguing with this because they actually interview a guy that's in the study. So,
unless you're on a bike ride, right, Josh?
Yeah.
He goes on
Is
bike
a handle
rides
of alcohol,
sometimes.
a few ounces short
Jeez.
of a half gallon of booze.
Something you'd bring to a party. I would drink one of those by myself.
John Costa started drinking in his early teens. Getting drunk became the #1 thing on his mind.
You're constantly thinking about where your next drink's going to come from.
AA didn't work, nor did any other rehab. His doctors told him alcohol was killing him. His last hope, he says, psilocybin, a compound found in psychedelic mushrooms.
I was terrified of psychedelics. I never touched them.
Yet he joined a double-blind study incorporating psychotherapy and psilocybin at NYU Langone Health. In all, there were 93 participants. The results, very promising. More than 80% who were given the psychedelic treatment drastically reduced their drinking. 48% were completely abstinent 8 months after receiving their first dose.
Have them quit
Their
drinking.
improvement was evident immediately during the month after the first dose of psilocybin.
Dr. Michael Bogenschutz headed the study.
There wasn't really any sign that the effect was diminishing over time.
Through 12 weeks of psychotherapy, participants were given 2 doses of psilocybin and were given an option for a third. During the sessions, they were accompanied by 2 staff members who monitored them for possible physical or psychological side effects.
My emotions were really amplified. So if I'm happy, I'm ecstatic. If I'm sad, I'm terrified.
We know that psilocybin can make it possible for the brain to change
Right.
more than it ordinarily would.
That change is called neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to modify, change, and adapt. The theory, psilocybin makes the brain more malleable. Costas had profound, transcendent reactions to the drug.
I saw a liquor bottle in the middle of a desert, and all of a sudden it disintegrates into the sand. And I thought that was pretty obvious symbolism for my alcoholism leaving me.
The researchers have not kept track of how many participants remain abstinent. Costas, one of the first patients, says he has not had a drink in nearly 7 years.
It was never a case where I could just have a drink and then not have another drink.
Nicola D'Alessandro also participated in the study. The psilocybin's effect, mind-altering and life-changing.
The third dose was like the icing on the cake that completed my experience and allowed me to move forward in life with a new path, a new hope. Hard not to cry.
It's not that it's, a miracle cure that works for every single participant, but a lot of the patients will report they learned something that was very personal and very critical for them to understand in order to make these major changes in their lives.
The results are promising, but more research is needed, says Dr. Bogenschutz.
If the results of this study are replicated and we eventually are able to show that this drug can be safe and effective and it becomes clinically available, it could impact millions and millions of lives.
That's like jaw-dropping.
Right.
That could happen.
How
And
far
just the
away
sheer
from that
numbers.
potential are we, do you think? They need to do another bigger study. It's a lot of hands-on, right? So there's the sessions of psychotherapy, and then with the psilocybin session, there are two medical professionals that are there the whole time.
What could happen? Like, what are the possible side
people
effects?
become upset. People become
Yeah.
disturbed while they're going through this experience. Basically, the people are there just to calm them down. Let them know you'll get through this. You'll get through this. People who have gone through this say they see themselves in a kind of reality that they never have before. Because if you're abusing a drug, it's like, well, I'm going to drink because I'm happy. I'm going to drink because I'm sad. I'm going to do this, but it's all this rationalization. Somehow this rationalization is taken out of it.
So it sounds like the drug is helping people deal with not just the addiction, but perhaps more so the root causes of
ding, 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 ding.
Wow.
That's why the psychotherapy part, along with the psilocybin, ends up being a real part.
Find out why you drink.
That really is,
powerful.
Aaron. Wow.
And here's the thing, we've talked about this. My father struggled mightily for decades with alcohol use disorder. That's what it's called now. Back then it was just called being a drunk. He struggled with addiction. And for folks who struggle with alcohol addiction specifically, not a lot of options outside of AA and rehab.
And the results are not particularly great. And in John Costa's case, they referred to him as treatment resistant. He had done AA. He had done.
Well, there's a stigma about that. Like the longer
Right.
that you've abused, the harder it could be for you to get, better, which may be not true.
And like Johns Hopkins is using this to treat depression. There's already a study from NYU and Langone to treat anxiety with people with cancer.
Wow.
So we're at the beginning stages of who knows what.
Does the language change? They still call it a trip?
Yeah.
To say,
Never
what do they
heard
call it?
Never heard that.
Wow.
The other thing, when we talk to the people who've gone through it, they say, well, so what is it like? And they use the word ineffable. Because it's not really, it's hard to describe.
Hard to describe. Wow, Harry, fascinating.
That's a really awesome video.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube.
A few times. I remember when I watched it and I had already known what the stuff does, and I was like, it was awesome to see mainstream talking about it.
And I understand because the disease of addiction, it has the obsession of the mind, and shit, and it's a lot of it we drink because we wanted to get rid of something. Then it says in the Alcoholics Anonymous book, we had to get down to the causes and conditions of why we drank. Alcohol and drugs were just a symptom of the problem, which is true, just like a Band-Aid, and that I see what it's saying now. It's getting down to those character defects and those them emotions that are causing us to think that we need to drink to do it rewires your brain again. That's awesome, man.
Yeah,
love that.
You get stuck in a one road thing when you're an alcoholic. You only see down one path, and when you start to you do the mushroom, you really see yourself in a different perspective, and you understand what you're doing, and the fact that your neurons kind of shut off that addiction part, kind of helps defeat it in the neurological sense.
Right. And those, the rationalizations he was talking about, I could rationalize anything for my drinking, like you said, it was a good day, bad day, hell, the day ended in Y, that was one thing I could rationalize anything, I'd have a bad day at work. I'd say,
yeah, those people in that study too were probably at the worst of the worst. They, there are people who applied for the program because they were worried the alcohol was going to kill them,
Mm-hmm.
So to treat almost half of them is truly amazing. People who were really, in bad shape.
Absolutely.
So
about them treatment resistant people, as a counselor, myself, I ran across them people, no matter what we would do.
Right.
They just, it wasn't working with them, any of the normal stuff that worked with millions of other people. Hell, AA's, and it has like 47 different languages, or more than that, and, it's all over the country, and over 2 million people use it, the cure, more than that. But stuff like that, even common evidence-based practices like the rap that I do, and the different stuff, not like rapping, but I mean, wellness recovery action plan, the stuff that I do, it didn't work on these individuals. So, it was hard to find something. They would have good little amounts of sobriety, and then they'd fall back off because it just wasn't sticking. But I could see how psilocybin could rewire that brain to where that knowledge, well, kind of like you were saying, Dan, he mentioned earlier, guys, I think it was just me and him, but talking about when he said, try when I'm watching a documentary while you're on psilocybin. He says you'll retain it better. And I never really thought of that because I do remember a lot more whenever I'm on psilocybin. But that this is me thinking out loud. But, I'm thinking that, if somebody was able to implement in their recovery, they would be able to retain that better. And that stuff would stick with them to where when they got out there to use it in that critical moment, it would be fresh in their brain and easier to recall rather than, damn, what the fuck do I do now?
I
love it.
I think that you're able to learn more when you're on mushrooms because you have no anxiety and fear, and those are two things that can really keep you from learning. The child, any kind of person, experiences fear, anxiety of something that they're learning. It makes it a lot harder to learn. The mushrooms eliminate that fear of learning, and then plus your ability to retain information due to the plasticity of your brain.
Sure. And it makes a lot of sense that anxiety can make it hard to learn, and the fear could make it a negative experience to where you don't want to learn again. You don't want to continue to.
Yeah, that's why a majority of adults don't learn at the age, because we are scared to learn compared to a younger age where we were a lot less fearful.
Yeah.
It's like, I know that there's people who go back to school in the 40s and they're terrified at first, and then realize, there's nothing to be terrified of. It's the way it works.
Yeah, the video was playing, but Josh, I didn't mean you to sound out. It was that one time that he was telling me about that he was on his bike, but I didn't mean it to sound like he was out tripping on his bike all the time.
Tripping on his bike. There's some other good videos here. This is the other one too, about how to help people quit smoking. So this one's a shorter video, so it's really interesting.
That's my next mission. I want to this.
They don't talk about the method they use. I don't know, like, the method that's used to help people quit smoking. I know what I do.
Oh, I'll find it somewhere.
I know that what was I gonna say?
You don't know the process, but they tell you.
What's that?
You
Oh,
did
the
said you
process.
didn't-
Yeah, I didn't know the process they use to help quit smoking. I don't know if they just give them the mushrooms or but there's a lot more research needed to how to actually navigate, to use them to quit smoking. I had my ex-girlfriend who used them 4 or 5 times, and she didn't quit smoking. It didn't really. She kind of smoked a little less the next day, but it wasn't like she quit smoking. But so I'm not sure how to navigate it to help people quit smoking. But this study is all about that, so it's really interesting as well.
Smoking can, of course, be an uphill battle, and it can oftentimes lead to frustrating relapses. According to the CDC, fewer than 1 in 10 adult smokers are successful in quitting each year. Wow, what a stat.
I know, but that statistic could soon change with the help of magic mushrooms.
No,
You heard that right.
there you go,
Researchers at
Andrew.
Johns Hopkins Medicine are working with psilocybin, the psychedelic substance found in those magic mushrooms.
I love how he
to
says
break
that word.
Addictions like smoking.
For more, we're joined by NBC News medical fellow Dr. Akshay Syal. Dr.
It's a word,
so
psilocybin,
interesting. Thanks for being here with us. So this is something you
It's
went
called
out, you
different
saw for
ways.
yourself at Johns Hopkins Psychedelics Research Center. Tell us what you saw and how it works.
Well, good morning, Savannah and Joe. This place is it's a psychedelic research center, and it looks like any old therapist's office. You have a couch, you have the warm lighting. But if you look a little bit closer, it's a little bit different. There's a blood pressure monitor. They look at your heart rate. Essentially, you have these warm, inviting rooms, which, almost looks like what I imagine Jimi Hendrix's bedroom looked like. You have a tie-dye color rug, and it looks like they're studying psychedelics there. And basically, you have these supervised sessions. You have patients who are getting dosed with psilocybin, the compound
awesome
in
to hear
magic
that this is
mushrooms,
happening legally.
inside of these controlled, safe environments. And you have a psychologist who's monitoring you during
These are
sessions
strong
as well.
doses.
And
Like
you spoke with a
getting
woman
lab
who'd been trying to
trained
quit or had been
psychedelic,
smoking for
shit's
40
not
years and did after
mess
just
with.
one session. What did she tell
I'm
you?
blown away.
It was pretty remarkable, and what she's saying is that after this session, all her cravings were gone. And, she'd quit smoking 12 times before, but every time she had quit, she'd always wanted a cigarette, both emotionally and physically. Take a listen to what she had to say and hear it for yourself. Is there a part of you that's like, this is a little nuts?
It's crazy. Yeah. It's still stunning that that this one session was able to break a habit that was literally a 40-year habit for me.
And so what she said to me was this was almost like flipping a switch. As soon as she walked out of there, her cravings just disappeared.
Wow, it's interesting to hear her say, yeah, it's kind of nuts, because that's how we feel. Okay, so I know that these sessions are monitored by a therapist. Talk us through what that looks like, what the session's like, and then, I don't even really know what an average patient is in this scenario. I don't think it's like the average person who's not in one of these centers, but what does it look like for most people? Is she rare?
Well, so the important thing is this is psilocybin and psychotherapy, or talk therapy, as people commonly refer to. This isn't just, us going out and getting psilocybin and going to a cabin in Woodstock and, we forget all of our bad habits. That's not really what's going on here. This is psilocybin combined with therapy. You really need that therapy to guide you in the right direction here.
So don't just think if you go out into the woods that you're going to be able to quit smoking. You really need that medical support all the way around.
Woodstock specifically.
Exactly.
You're funny.
We know there is a lot of research that's being done on this. We were just talking about a similar thing with alcohol and getting people to quit drinking. What are you looking out for as this moves forward, as we continue to research this?
In talking to all the experts about this, the big thing is, how is this going to be used? How is somebody who's struggling to quit smoking, how can they eventually get their hands on this? And the big thing is this, doctors aren't trying to get this for recreational use. It's trying to be sort of licensed therapists to use this in a controlled setting, because every patient we talk to really describes this as a powerful emotional experience, one that you do not want to try at home without the supervision of a doctor.
So interesting. It's so great that they are researching this and to hear more. I know you're making a joke about forgetting your bad habits, but when you hear the multiple things that it's helped with, it does make you think what else is possible. Doctor, thank you so much. Always good to have you with us.
Anytime.
Pretty intriguing. I always wish that there are many moments during my experience where I wish I had access to a therapist who knows, a lot about these. I have a medium friend, but she has kids and a family. She's not always available.
Right.
And I can't, that's why I can't wait till they do more research and we actually have therapy based towards specific things. Like maybe you have bipolar. You may have bipolar, this is how the treatment goes, or you may have, just different issues treated different ways.
For sure, you know, and
That's
what I think would be so awesome is integrating, you know, both of them together in sessions. You know, that'd be so cool.
Yeah, and I don't know how the quit smoking part goes. So yeah, again, these when they give these in the research facilities, they're high doses, lab grade. This isn't.
Oh yeah.
Most of them is not mushrooms that we know. That this is stuff they've actually mimicked the molecule in the lab. So it's lab grade stuff. So it's probably very, very potent. I know they give very small doses to people and they have very profound experiences.
Well, I'll quit. The last time I was arguing with myself. So next time hopefully I'll get a little farther. Like I said, I'm getting farther and farther each time with different stuff, and it's I'm just out right now. So I gotta wait till I get some more to continue on.
Yeah, for sure. And everybody has their own journey when they're on mushrooms. That's what's interesting is even I have a journey it's not as profound as it used to be because your brain kind of gets used to the molecule. And you have to realize you have to really be sensitive to how your brain was before and how it is now. And realize that you may not have as profound experiences as you used to do because your brain has evolved so much to a better place.
Sure.
Mine was a dark place, you know, mine was mental illness. And so coming out of that and not being depression free is really the biggest part of my mushroom use.
Yeah. You know what's, I'll just, kind of share a little bit. What I was telling Dan is I have these, I call them surges, you know, it's like a big surge, you know, and then my eyes are closed, I'm laying there and it was just surges at first. And then the second time it was a surge and I seen like people coming at me and I could just see silhouettes. But at the first person I could tell was a female because it had like imprints and like a shirt on and you could tell it was a shape of a woman. And, but that's as far as I got. So hopefully next time I'll see faces, you know, and that's it, you know, I take what I get, I take what I can, you know, and just work with that.
Yeah, the mystical experiences. And it said that if you have the more profound mystical experiences you have, the more dent it kind of leaves in your brain. And I can say that too in the recollection of the experiences I had. But some of my most profound experiences were when I had mushrooms with other people. Those were easily some of the most profound moments I've ever had. And I can't wait till mushrooms are used to save marriages because I truly believe they will. I already know there's family therapy that they're talking about, like, you know, how do you incorporate this between couples and marriage counseling, you know, because I really think that if you give a couple mushrooms and put them in a room, I really think that they'll work their issues out.
Mm-hmm.
It just makes you, it humbles you, you know, drops your ego, and you're able to, you know, communicate in a way that you never thought you could. And I think that's important for every couple to experience.
That's awesome, Sandra. I didn't see that.
So I think it'll be used heavily to save marriages in the future. I look forward to that. But we're still a couple of years and a lot of research away from doing that. But people are doing it at home, that's for sure. I know that. People are doing it at home.
Yeah, it's amazing what it can do.
Yeah, this is what it does, actually. This is the video that explains it.
Right.
So I was just going to play that and load another poll here. And
hell of a segue.
Learn a little bit more about what it actually does to your brain.
Psychological experience has a biological correlate. These are two sides of the same coin. You see the color green, there's something happening in your brain that's coding that experience of the color green. So with psychedelics, the biggest divide is whether we're talking about on the psychological side or the biological side. Does it work by hitting these brain receptors and then having other effects, or does it work because of the experience? Clearly, there's this very real biological effect. Something dramatic happens to the brain when you put the psychedelic in the system. But then someone has this experience, and when they change their life because of that, that ends up sounding more like they went through a really good course of psychotherapy. So psychedelics are really interesting at that bridge between the biological and the psychological. What psychedelic means from its linguistic roots is mind manifesting.
Manifest the mind.
The idea that these are mind manifesting, that's consistent with this other notion that these are non-specific amplifiers. In other words, you could have a euphoric experience, you could have a hellish experience. Also, terminology is so difficult in this area. Psychedelic can be used to refer to what are called the classic psychedelic compounds, psilocybin, which is in magic mushrooms, LSD, DMT, which is in ayahuasca, mescaline, which is in peyote. Those are the classic psychedelics. They affect a particular type of serotonin receptor, and that's their primary mechanism of action. But then you have other drugs that I think it's appropriate to call them psychedelic. Other scientists will disagree. So for example, MDMA will work by releasing serotonin. So that's a different mechanism. And you have other drugs such as ketamine and PCP. So that affects the glutamate system in the brain primarily rather than the serotonin system. So what does psychedelic mean then if it refers to multiple pharmacological classes of drugs that work in different ways? And the answer for me is that these are all drugs that can have a profound effect on one's sense of reality, including one's sense of self. The huge question that's always thrown out is how do these psychedelics work? And you can just come at that from so many different angles. Now, to go down that biological path, what's happening? There's a lot going on. For example, psilocybin, which people may know as the active agent in so-called magic mushrooms. Once it's circulating through your blood after you've eaten some of it, it actually converts to a related compound called psilocin, which is the thing that's actually hitting the brain receptors. And it activates a subtype of serotonin receptor. So we have lots of different types of serotonin receptors in our brain. One is called the serotonin 2A receptor. And psilocybin and the other classic psychedelics can latch onto that the same way that our serotonin latches onto these brain receptors. So psilocybin affects serotonin, but then serotonin affects the glutamate system. And then at another level, you had this massive increase in communication across these different silos in the brain. That is probably an important level of analysis that is underlying at the psychological level. Patients who have claims of insight, viewing themselves from a radically different perspective, from a different lens, and based on animal research, there also seems like there may be increased neuroplasticity in the system so that in the days following the psychedelic experience, people are more primed to learn new things. There's a greater ability to establish a new and more optimal normal state. So there seemed to really be something important about the nature of the experience that people have during these sessions. It's not just about hitting a certain type of serotonin receptor in the brain. There's something about the psychology of the experience that unfolds during that session that tends to be important, which is in some sense what makes the psilocybin treatments a bit more like psychotherapy.
That's funny. I was just thinking of his
traditional psychiatric medications where you just take the pill and just, you forget it. There's some interacting reasons why the psychedelic renaissance is happening now. Our society has been in a mental health crisis, and it's been stagnating. Pharmaceutical companies don't make the investments in new mental health care treatments like they did decades ago. I mean, the best medical treatments that we have for many addictions are substitution treatments, also known as agonist treatments. I think these are good, but when you don't see success, I would say it's probably because they fail to get to the roots of these mental disorders, including addiction. And that's why I think psychedelics have been so successful. Nothing is going to be a miracle cure for everyone. Nonetheless, they have so much promise, and we have to have that balance. I think that's more possible today.
Get smarter faster with videos from the
That's
world's
the
biggest
part of the
thinkers.
bigger video that there's actually a 13-minute video. That's really interesting what he has to say. So that is another guy from Johns Hopkins University as well. They just seem to be full of a lot of useful knowledge.
Oh yeah.
But there's a lot of psychedelic research going on. There's literally 40 plus studies. I can't even keep up most of the time, but I do try to. But it's all evolving. A lot of the studies are in Canada. A lot of the companies are setting up shop in Canada because they believe Canada will legalize first. And what's going on, Doc? How you doing tonight? Hope all's well.
Hey, Doc. What's up, buddy?
And yeah, he's in an area where this stuff is legal. There are certain parts of the country where you can legally buy magic mushrooms. Australia legalized in July of this year, so they're the first major country to legalize mushrooms. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out there.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see, you know, do they have where you can buy it in a dispensary like marijuana?
It's they have a system where a doctor has to prescribe it, but it was federally legalized. It was not just like a state doing it, it was the whole federal government.
Right, gotcha.
Which is a big deal. That'd be like our federal government all of a sudden writing cannabis laws, which is what we pray they do, but they just don't.
Right.
And just totally legalize, federal cannabis. But
hey, Beans.
What's going on, Beans? You found us over here.
Yeah, he just messaged me. I can let him know he was over here. So that's the effect. You tell people you're talking about shrooms, they come running.
I should probably start tagging people. I used to do that when I first started podcasting, and then I quit doing it. I do have a list of names here. People to tag still.
Yeah, I'm bad at it too. I'm stoned. I've been watching and trying to learn too.
Well, best thing to do is make sure you have a very chill environment. The best thing is make sure your environment is comfortable to what you like. That's the best advice that I can tell you if you do it. Neutral colors. I like a lot of lighting. So you can see the lighting behind me, or this lighting on my Christmas tree. Like that kind of vibe lighting is really good to do mushrooms around. It's very low setting lighting because too much lighting can really mess with you visually. Yeah, just do it in a place you're comfortable. That's the number one thing, and then just go from there. Don't go out to a party and do it. That's the number one. That's the worst thing people do, and then they have bad trips, and then they wonder why. Because they did a substance that really altered their brain where they shouldn't have.
And people, if they know you're tripping, they tend to fuck with you too.
Yeah, it's okay to do if you're a psychonaut and you kind of. I do it to engage with people better, so I might do microdoses to help me communicate better. I really like it when I do that.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. I'm reading the same message you are getting.
A bowl of cream morel soup. Damn, I was just reading it. I started reading it. By the time I was done, I was salivating. Like, man.
You're welcome to message me, Dolores, too, if you ever have more questions. If I don't know it, I have a lot of videos that will explain stuff better than I do. So there's a lot of great stuff on YouTube that's really educational about mushrooms.
Yeah, I love those too. I always refer people to the heroic dose and microdose.
Yeah.
The one you showed me.
Yeah. So yeah, that video was the 6 minutes was part of a longer video that's 11 minutes long where he talks a little bit more about the magic mushrooms.
Oh, cool.
Morel and leek soup.
I've never had leeks, so I don't know.
So you're talking about morel mushrooms? I'm assuming.
Yeah.
I would have some shiitake and leek soup. I don't know if anybody saw my giant shiitake.
What are leeks again? They're like something else, but I can't remember. Is it like celery?
He'll have to tell us because I'm very ignorant when it comes to that. What the heck are leeks?
It's like celery, but bigger.
Celery or bigger, huh?
Onion family, Debbie said.
Did everybody see this? This Whopper the other day too. This is my mushroom.
Yeah, that's oh yeah, I know what you're. Okay, I can picture it now.
This that 13-ounce shiitake I grew. It's giant. But I got a bunch of shiitakes growing right now, but that was the biggest one I've ever grown.
Oh yeah, looks like you took a bite out of it. No.
Yeah, you usually don't get one mushroom, 1 pound in one mushroom. When you do, it's a giant. So I'll probably get bigger than that eventually, but that's a giant mushroom.
Now watch, guys. He's gonna try and beat that and keep going. Next thing you know, he's gonna come up with a mushroom big as a fucking.
It's gonna be a 2-pound mushroom. So literally, that mushroom at the market, the farmer's market's worth $9 for that one mushroom.
Damn.
It'll cut up into a lot of, 3/4 of a pound.
Yeah, that's what the picture I had, Polly, was the green onions like that, but
okay,
but fat.
Yeah,
And if that's the case, I love them. I sit there and eat them green onions all day long. Just put
Don't they grow wild in your yard?
Put it in water, dip it salt.
Is that what grows wild in your yard? Just wild onions?
It's a lot, kind of like those, but the ones you get at the store, they're kind of manicured a little bit, and they're grown in the garden with nutrients and stuff. Same thing though, pretty much. I think close.
These things grow everywhere.
I'm sure there's a little bit different taste.
And a nice raspberry sauce.
Yeah, them too though. I'd fucking pull them wild onions and eat them.
Well, the shiitake is over there in the fridge. Next time we'll have to tag all those names in because I totally should have that last time.
Holy shiitake, Batman!
Because I almost thought about giving a giveaway. We got over 10, but we didn't. Cheers, everybody. Wild chives. Yeah, that's my name, Daniel Baird. You can personally message that my personal account, or Great River Mushrooms. It doesn't matter, or the Rumination Project. I just don't sell any mushrooms, but I'm definitely here to give people advice. So, some penis envy honey. That's interesting when you start talking about magic mushrooms and honey. But I guess the infusion would be pretty simple. Heat up the honey, put the mushrooms in there, and then filter out the mushrooms. But I still just eat them. Eat the mushrooms. There was one more video too. Well, we didn't talk about the big thing, about how magic mushrooms treat depression, but I think we all know that by now because there's so much research that shows it does. That's not a very good video of it, though. There's like literally thousands of videos now for treating depression. It's hard to find. Some of the good ones got buried. This is actually the video I played before, so play the last part of it, which, well, that's not the video we want. The last part is how magic mushrooms actually treat depression. This is a short video kind of explaining what a reset is, as I kind of explained to Rasta. A reset's kind of different. It's I guess this is a great video that explains it.
Accumulating evidence suggests that psilocybin, the primary psychedelic compound found in so-called magic mushrooms, can be used to safely treat a range of psychiatric conditions. Prior studies have shown that just 1 or 2 doses of psilocybin can have a rapid and lasting positive impact on mental health, but the associated brain mechanisms aren't well understood. Now, researchers based in the United Kingdom have used functional magnetic resonance imaging to map the brain activity of 19 patients with treatment-resistant major depression who were given psilocybin. The results shed light on how the compound changes human brain function. The patients were dosed with the drug as part of an open-label clinical trial. Before and 1 day after treatment, the researchers used fMRI to look at cerebral blood flow and brain functional connectivity, a measure of how different regions of the brain interact. The imaging findings were compared against the patient's depressive symptoms, assessed using a self-reported questionnaire. The results showed that psilocybin produced rapid and sustained antidepressant effects. At 1 day after treatment, the group's mean depression score was roughly half that measured the day before. By 5 weeks post-treatment,
I've never taken
all
one of
but
those.
one patient showed some decrease in depressive symptoms.
All I know is it
On
works.
imaging, the researchers observed a link between decreased blood flow to the amygdala, an area that processes emotions such as fear and anxiety, and reductions in depressive mood. Intriguingly, the data on functional connectivity suggested that psilocybin seems to reset a portion of the brain known as the default mode network, which helps assimilate autobiographical information, thoughts of others, and considerations of the past and future. The drug essentially disintegrated and then reintegrated the network, analogous to a rebooting effect.
The reboot.
This effect also appeared to predict treatment response 5 weeks later. By examining how changes in brain activity that occur just 1 day after the use of psilocybin can promote lasting improvements in depression symptoms, the study fills an important knowledge gap regarding the longer-term effects of psychedelics. Perhaps more importantly, the work may reveal new treatment strategies for mental illness.
That's interesting. And the brain reset I've actually experienced before. I've felt it happen on big, large doses of mushrooms. You kind of feel your brain, that part of your brain just kind of reset. And it's kind of hard to explain unless you experience it. But
what was that word they used as far as not being able to explain it? You know how they said your experience is unexplainable. People can't explain it, but they had a word for that.
Ineffable.
Yeah, ineffable. Thank you. I couldn't think of it.
Yeah.
I kept thinking elephant.
Yeah, that's the great thing about mushrooms too, is that you never have the same experience twice. So, as Sandra says here, you might have a total giggle fest, visual buffet, or you might have some serious introspective. Most of the time I experience all three of those things at once, or during the whole time I take them, but it's good that for people to be open-minded and experience these different states of mind. But appreciate everybody joining us tonight. We're probably just going to stop it here in 5 minutes, so I can save my voice, because I've been a little under the weather lately, but not too bad. But appreciate y'all joining us. We did go over a lot of information. I know that's probably a good video to replay again, because a lot of those videos do have a lot of useful information. Anybody who ever wants to know more about magic mushrooms is welcome to message me or Rasta, and I can give you links to those videos.
Absolutely. I'd like to link to those last two, if you could. If you'd send them to me.
Yeah. And a lot of them are older, like literally you're year old, 6 months, and that's, in my terms, that's considered old now, even though, because it just changes so much, all this information that comes out. But studies take years. Studies take anywhere from 3 to 5 years, and they are trying to push a lot of these studies faster, but they do take a lot of time.
Well, when you have something growing and constantly being researched, finding out more and more, it doesn't take long for that other information to become old, so I get it.
Right. Hey, welcome, Polly. And we will be back on Mental Health Monday too, and we actually have a guest. Some people remember her in the past, Cheyenne Moore, and we were talking about an interesting subject as well about feminism. And feminism has actually played a big, intriguing role in my healing process. And I'll talk definitely more about that on Monday, how that has, because I've always wanted to talk more about that. Because I think it's important that men and women both experience feminism, and they both have masculinity and, you know, feministic qualities. And it's important to have both of those to have a sound mental health. So we'll definitely be talking about that as well.
Sorry, I'm distracted for a little bit. I'm actually, speaking of mental health, I'm chatting with somebody.
So yeah, the Monday will be interesting. Cheyenne Moore is always packed with information, and especially when it comes to something as a subject, her being a woman herself and talking about feminism.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Well, we'll call it a night then. Much appreciated, everybody, for joining us again. Hit those reaction buttons, share it out to friends. It's a great video to replay because we're just trying to educate people on what these substances actually do, so you actually know before you actually take them. 7:30 Monday, that's what time all of our shows are. So, and you always see me on my personal page or the Rumination Project. So, Ross, you got anything you want to say before we go then?
No. Oh yeah, actually I do have a show now. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 9 in the morning.
Tomorrow at 9.
Yeah, but yeah, guys, thanks for coming. I appreciate everybody showing up, and I hope you learned a lot, because I did, you know, and I'm constantly learning on this journey with the mushrooms and my recovery. And it's fun and exciting, you know, a little scary sometimes, but you know, sometimes you gotta embrace the suck and just kind of go through, you know, and be like, all right, hey, I'm learning about me.
Right.
So it's good.
And as always, do what the mushrooms tell you to do. They tell you to love yourself. They tell you to forgive yourself. And at the end of the day, that's the lesson they teach. So until next time, guys, we'll catch you guys later. Thanks for joining us.
Much love, everybody.